I chose to compare punk rock and rap because even though they sound different, they come from similar places. Growing up in the Toronto punk scene and being a part of a femme-queer band, I've been surrounded by conversations about rebellion, anger, and who's allowed to be loud. Punk spaces especially made me question who gets judged for expressing rage and who gets celebrated for it. At the same time, my love for rap starting at age 13, listening to artists like Tyler the Creator, Kendrick Lamar, and Odd Future introduced me to themes of violence, anger, and social critique through a different cultural lens. It's important to understand that both genres are rooted by truth telling and resistance, but they also reflect harmful ideas about gender. Examining violence in punk and rap isn't about dismissing the music. It's about understanding where that anger comes from, who it's directed to, and who it affects. In this video essay, I'll be walking with you guys through the brief history of both punk and rap and discussing its violent elements, including how it operates in male-dominated spaces. One, two, three, now! Rock music emerged in the late 1940s and 50s in the US. Rock drew from the blues, folk, and country, eventually evolving to subgenres like punk, metal, and alternative rock. Rock music became a way for young people to reject authority, social norms, and conformity.
And our part within that system isn't to change anything, even though we'd like to, but it has to be everybody trying to change something.
By the 1960s and 70s, punk scenes formed in places like New York, England, also in Canada, including Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton, and Vancouver. Punk rejected corporate control and mainstream values, using raw sound and aggression to speak about class struggle, racism, anti-establishment politics. Anger in punk was collective and intentional.
Why are you frustrated? Everyone is. Everyone is. What?
It was about community and resistance.
Even in the music business, the people who run the record labels and all that, they don't want to hear you question things like that. Punk music got successful because it was a novelty item. It was novel to hear somebody spout off like a fanatic about not liking this and not liking that.
Rap developed in the Bronx during the 1970s, beginning with DJs spinning records and chopping beats at block parties. However, it stretches back even further to the 1960s civil rights movement, shaped by poverty, racism, heavy policing, and cuts on social services.
What's the hardest thing about finding a job today?
Well, the hardest thing about finding a job is the qualifications. And if you don't have all the qualifications that the employer is looking for, you're out of luck.
Rather than it silencing the youth, these conditions pushed them to create. Rap became a way to document lived experiences and resist marginalization. In Canada, hip-hop grew in cities like Toronto and Montreal, where artists like Maestro Fresh West and Michie Me helped shape a distinctly Canadian-rooted sound in identity, storytelling, and community.
I would like to educate my brothers and sisters. I would like to show them that the stereotypes that are being portrayed against us are not true. And I'd like to give them that positive self-esteem, that kind of build that we as young Black children or we as Africans growing up in today's society need.
Although punk and rap come from different communities, both use aggression to express realities that are often ignored. Violence in these genres isn't always physical. It can be emotional, symbolic, or structural. But how the violence is expressed and who's expressing it matters. This is where misogyny enters in the conversation. Both punk and rap are male-dominated spaces, meaning that it isn't only directed towards systems of power, it's often directed inwards towards women, femme, and queer people. In early punk scenes, women were frequently pushed to the sides reduced as muses rather than musicians, even though punk claims to be anti-authority. Songs like Too Drunk to Fuck by the Kennedys reflects on how women's bodies are often treated and casually dismissed in punk lyrics. In response, feminist movements like Riot Grrrl used punk to directly challenge misogyny, sexual violence, and exclusion. Riot Grrrl, a feminist punk movement created in the early 90s in Olympia, Washington, created by Kathleen Hanna and Toby Vale from the band Bikini Girls, was designed to combat sexism within the scene. In Canada, bands like Fifth Column were already doing the groundwork in the 1980s, openly addressing feminism, queerness, and anti-capitalism well before Riot Grrrl became a widely recognized movement. In rap, violence is often depicted more literally, shaped by lived experiences of racism, policing, and poverty. However, it has also been used to justify misogynistic portrayals of women, especially in music videos like Candy Shop by 50 Cent, where women's bodies are fetishized and reduced to objects. These portrayals often rely on racialized sexual stereotypes, particularly targeting Black women. At the same time, women in Canadian hip-hop have constantly challenged these narratives. Artists like Misogyny, Hyvie Mighty, Claremont II, and Deja SB showed that aggression in rap doesn't have to look one way. It can be emotional, political, and reflective. Just like Riot Grrrl did in punk, women in hip-hop reclaim space by refusing silence. To understand how these issues affect people today, I spoke to artists about their experiences with violence, misogyny, and safety in punk spaces.
Yeah, I remember I was in the scene pretty early on, so was Nate. We're talking like 2021.
Because of her.
What?
You got me in the scene.
Oh yeah, I brought him to shows and heavier bands, a lot of mixed crowds, a lot of older men. And like just being a woman in the pit in general, you usually get targeted, men have a tendency to be violent towards women in general. In all cases, in all places, you see it all the time. It's almost like a natural habit for some guys, and a lot of them think that being in the pit and being at these shows means that they can take that violence and take that anger out on girls in the pit, which you see a lot. You see it at hardcore shows too, and yeah, it's just, I remember when I was at a show, I remember seeing like a guy on the stage. He was gonna stage dive. I was surrounded by like bigger guys. This was a hardcore show as well. I guess it's more in the culture, but still, there were all these big guys surrounding me, and this maybe 200-pound man still went and stage dove right onto me, and it hurt. My shoulder was all, and I know that he did it because I was a girl at the front, and he thought that I wouldn't say it. But I called him out, I pushed him back, and I didn't hear from him again.
I can say that I have definitely experienced that for sure. I think being the only woman in the band, definitely not in the band that I am now, because I think that I've created a pretty safe space for myself, and I've built I wouldn't say reputation, but a scene for myself that protects me. But in my previous band, yeah, for sure, there was a lot of sexism going on, like not only in the band, being the only woman, but just, I was young, I was dumb. There were a lot of promoters who would take advantage of us. There was a lot of just, we acknowledge you, but we will ignore you, and we won't talk to you. And I mean, I've seen a lot of violence against women in specifically the pit. There's a lot of sexual assault that happens in this scene, and it's disgusting and sad to see. But it's a real thing, and it really does happen, and that's why we wrote Grope, because it's just like, fuck, if you do that, you're a horrible person, and I hope that nothing good happens to you in your life. But yeah, I've definitely faced and that's why we write the music that we write.
I've seen a lot like in crowds, but I also see a lot in like bars and different smaller venues. A lot of misogyny. I see a lot of sound guys and bar owners and stuff kind of looking a second glance at these bands with girls and just ignoring them. You know, if the band has a female lead, they'll just go to the male drummer to talk to them about the sound. They'll ignore them and they won't listen to a lot of the girls in bands. And I've noticed that a lot. And
I would say for me, it's definitely like lyrics based. You know, just talking about like how horribly women, trans people, like LGBTQ plus people are treated in this scene. It's just like it's not only women. You know, anybody who is different tends to be treated pretty horribly in any space, and this scene should be the most including, but it's not, and that's what really sucks.
I think one of the biggest ones that we can talk about is My Choice. My Choice was the first song that we wrote. I wrote the lyrics based on an assault that happened towards me. I was in a really bad relationship for a while, and I didn't realize that I was being abused, you know? As I got older, as time went on, I realized that what happened was really, really and the way I was being treated by this man was not normal. It was violent. So when I was writing My Choice, I kind of took this anger that I had inside of me of like not being touched, you know, being touched non-consensually, being woken up by things I didn't want to be waken up by, and having a fear that speaking out about it would make me seem like a slut, because women are always slut-shamed when it comes to things like these, and it's always hard to believe the victim at first for some fucking reason.
After these interviews, I realized that violence in music isn't about lyrics or sound. It's about how people move through these scenes. Many people in the Toronto scene love these communities while still having to protect themselves in it. Anger is powerful, but isn't treated equally. When men express it, it's celebrated. When women, femme, or queer people do, it's questioned or dismissed. Still, people keep creating. They keep building community and setting boundaries. That's what makes these genres matter. Not the aggression, but the care that exists alongside it. This music isn't dangerous. Being unheard is.